Pernell Roberts, the man who brought Adam Cartwright to life on Bonanza, seemed every bit the gentleman, calm, confident, and endlessly charismatic. For 14 years, he rode across television screens as the eldest son on one of America's most beloved Western series, captivating millions with his quiet strength and moral conviction. But beneath that smooth exterior was a man who never hesitated to speak his mind, no matter the consequences. While most Hollywood stars of his time played it safe, smiling through their grudges and keeping opinions hidden, Pernell took a different path. He believed honesty mattered more than popularity, even if it cost him friends, roles, and respect in the industry. Throughout his career, Roberts made it clear there were 5 people in Hollywood he simply couldn't stand. Actors whose arrogance, hypocrisy, or lack of integrity clashed with his deeply held values. And today, we're revealing those 5 names along with the shocking stories behind each feud. The story of Pernell Roberts' conflicts didn't emerge all at once. Over the decades, through carefully worded interviews, biographical accounts, and testimonies from crew members who worked alongside him, a portrait gradually formed of an artist at war with his industry. Roberts was born on May 18, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia, and after studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, built a reputation as a serious, passionate actor whose depth could silence a room. When Hollywood came calling in 1959 with the role of Adam Cartwright on NBC's Bonanza, Roberts initially saw it as an opportunity to bring theatrical training to television. But according to a revealing 1986 conversation with the Orlando Sentinel, he quickly grew frustrated with what he considered the show's shallow writing and lack of social consciousness. He wanted Bonanza to address contemporary issues like and civil rights, but instead found himself trapped in what he called junk television, surrounded by people who seemed perfectly content with the status quo. That fundamental disconnect created tensions that would define his reputation in Hollywood and lead to conflicts with 5 men he came to truly despise. Michael Landon. The first and perhaps most bitter of Roberts' feuds began with someone who should have been an ally. Michael Landon arrived on the Bonanza set in 1959 as a young actor with limited experience, having done primarily small film roles and guest spots on television. Roberts, with his theater background and classical training, initially viewed Landon with something approaching pity, seeing him as another pretty face without real acting depth. But as the series progressed, something unexpected happened. Audiences fell in love with Little Joe Cartwright. Fan mail began pouring in, with teenage girls particularly captivated by Landon's boyish charm and emotional performances. By the 3rd season, Landon was receiving more mail than any other cast member, and NBC executives took notice. Scripts began shifting to give Little Joe more prominent storylines, and romantic episodes featuring Landon's character became reliable ratings winners. Roberts watched this development with growing resentment. He believed Landon was being rewarded for superficial appeal rather than genuine talent, and he wasn't shy about expressing that opinion. According to crew members who worked on the show, Roberts would sometimes refer to Landon dismissively as the kid, or make pointed remarks about popularity versus artistry within earshot of his younger co-star. But the real trouble began when Landon started writing and directing episodes. In 1962, he sold his first script to the show, and by 1964 he was directing as well. Landon's creative ambitions mirrored Roberts' own desires for more control, but their approaches couldn't have been more different. Landon worked within the system, maintaining friendly relationships with producer David Dortort and network executives, gradually earning their trust and expanding his influence. Roberts, meanwhile, fought the system at every turn, challenging scripts publicly and demanding changes that production schedules couldn't accommodate. The breaking point came during the filming of an episode in late 1964, just months before Roberts would leave the show. Landon was directing, and the script gave Little Joe several dramatic moments while reducing Adam to a supporting role. During rehearsals at the Paramount soundstage, Roberts challenged Landon's directorial choices repeatedly. He questioned the blocking, argued about dialogue delivery, and suggested alternative approaches to scenes. Landon initially tried to remain professional, explaining his vision and asking Roberts to trust his direction. But as Roberts' challenges continued throughout the day, Landon's patience finally broke. According to multiple crew members who were present, Landon walked over to where Roberts stood and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Pernell, if you hate this show so much, why don't you just leave? Nobody's forcing you to be here." The set went completely silent. Roberts stared at Landon for what felt like an eternity, his face expressionless. Then, without saying a word, he walked off the soundstage. He returned to finish the episode, but from that moment on, their relationship was destroyed. They communicated only when scenes absolutely required it, arrived at different times, and avoided each other during breaks. When Roberts announced in early 1965 that he wouldn't be returning for the 7th season, those who knew about the Landon incident understood it had played a significant role in his decision. Years later, when Landon found new fame with Little House on the Prairie, Roberts couldn't resist a sharp remark to a journalist. "It's more of the same," he reportedly said. "He's still playing cowboy, still playing saint." The bitterness, even decades later, remained unmistakable. Dan Blocker. If the conflict with Michael Landon was about ego and ambition, Roberts's falling out with Dan Blocker cut far deeper because it represented the betrayal of shared values. Blocker, who played Hoss Cartwright, wasn't just another television actor collecting a paycheck. He held a master's degree in dramatic arts from Sul Ross State University and understood the craft at a level most of his Bonanza castmates didn't. In the show's early seasons, Roberts and Blocker were close. They would have long conversations about acting technique, discuss theater productions they'd seen, and share frustrations about the limitations of series television. Blocker appreciated Roberts's passion for elevating the show's quality, and for a time it seemed like Roberts had found an ally who understood his artistic concerns. But as Roberts's battles with producers intensified, Blocker began pulling away. According to accounts from crew members, Blocker tried to position himself as a peacemaker, smoothing over tensions between Roberts and the production team, urging compromise rather than confrontation. Roberts took this personally. He believed that when the show avoided addressing Native American issues honestly or fell back on stereotypical portrayals, someone with Blocker's education and understanding should have stood beside him in demanding better. Instead, Blocker remained diplomatic, maintaining good relationships with everyone, while refusing to take a firm stand on the issues Roberts considered non-negotiable. The breaking point came during the filming of an episode in 19. Roberts had been fighting with the producers over what he considered a degrading script that relied on tired Western cliches without any meaningful character development. During a morning scene, his frustration finally boiled over. Between takes, Roberts announced loudly that he wouldn't perform the scene as written, that it was beneath the standards they should be upholding. He then walked off the set, expecting at least some show of solidarity from his castmates. Blocker didn't follow him. Instead, according to multiple witnesses, Blocker stayed on set and continued filming, working around Roberts's absence and helping the director complete the day's scheduled shots. When Roberts returned later that afternoon, having cooled down and ready to discuss possible compromises, he learned that Blocker had simply carried on without him. That night, Roberts confronted Blocker privately. The exact words exchanged were never made public, but crew members reported hearing raised voices from Blocker's dressing room. One assistant who was nearby later recalled Roberts saying something about choosing comfort over conscience, and Blocker responding that not everything needs to be a war. From that point forward, their friendship crumbled. They remained professional on camera, their scenes together showing no signs of personal tension, but off camera, the warmth and camaraderie disappeared. Blocker never spoke ill of Roberts publicly, even after Roberts left the show, but he also never defended him when others in the industry criticized Roberts's difficult reputation. For Roberts, that silence hurt more than any argument could have. In a 1991 interview with a television historian, Roberts reflected on his Bonanza years with barely concealed sadness. "Dan had the heart," he said, "but not the spine. He chose comfort over conscience." Chuck Connors. Yet if those conflicts were painful, they at least involved people Roberts worked with daily, relationships that had time to sour gradually. His feud with Chuck Connors exploded in a single evening and burned with an intensity that shocked those who witnessed it. Connors, the star of The Rifleman, was a towering figure in Western television, beloved by audiences for his portrayal of Lucas McCain. The two actors crossed paths at a charity event in the mid-1960s, a gala celebrating Western television legends held at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The event was meant to be a celebration, an opportunity for stars from different shows to mingle and raise money for a worthy cause. But backstage, away from the cameras and the adoring fans, Chuck Connors revealed a side of himself that few people outside the industry ever saw. According to multiple witnesses, including other actors and crew members who were present that night, Connors treated the event staff with shocking disrespect. He was reportedly dismissive toward waiters, demanding toward the sound technicians, and openly contemptuous of anyone he considered beneath his status. The incident that caught Roberts's attention involved a young production assistant, probably no more than 20 years old, who had made a minor mistake with Connors's microphone setup. Connors didn't just correct the error. According to those who were there, he publicly berated the young man, his voice loud enough that people throughout the backstage area could hear him. calling the assistant incompetent and suggesting he had no business working in the industry. Roberts, who had been standing quietly in a corner reviewing his remarks for the evening, watched the entire scene unfold. For a man who valued respect and humility above almost everything else, Connors's behavior was unforgivable. When the two actors encountered each other near the dressing rooms later that evening, Roberts didn't hold back. The confrontation was brief but explosive. Roberts reportedly called Connors a fraud, accusing him of caring more about maintaining his image than treating people with basic human decency. Connors, taken aback by the direct attack, fired back by mocking Roberts as a bitter quitter who had walked away from success because he couldn't handle the pressure of a hit show. The exchange escalated quickly, with voices rising and other people nearby trying to intervene before it became physical. Security eventually separated them, and both men completed their obligations for the evening, but the damage was done. In the years that followed, Roberts privately referred to Connors as all hat no soul, a cutting description that perfectly captured his contempt. To Roberts, Connors embodied everything wrong with Hollywood stardom, presenting a heroic image on camera while revealing cruelty and arrogance the moment the cameras stopped rolling. They never worked together, never appeared at the same industry events after that night, and according to friends of both men, neither ever softened their opinion of the other. Lorne Greene. But if Roberts's conflicts with Landon, Blocker, and Connors were significant, none cut quite as deep or lasted quite as long as his troubled relationship with the man who played his on-screen father. Lorne Greene, who portrayed patriarch Ben Cartwright, was in many ways the opposite of everything Roberts represented. Where Roberts was confrontational, Greene was diplomatic. Where Roberts challenged authority, Greene respected hierarchy. Where Roberts demanded that Bonanza tackle serious social issues, Greene remained content with the show's proven formula of family-friendly entertainment and moral simplicity. To millions of viewers, Ben and Adam Cartwright shared a warm, loving father-son relationship, filled with mutual respect and affection. Behind the scenes, however, the tension between Roberts and Greene was palpable from early in the series. Greene, as the show's lead and highest-paid actor, received preferential treatment in every aspect of production. He had approval over scripts, influence over scheduling, and a voice in creative decisions that no other cast member could match. Roberts resented this hierarchy, believing that artistic merit rather than billing should determine who had power over the show's direction. But the conflict went deeper than professional jealousy. Roberts genuinely believed that Greene's contentment with Bonanza's conservative approach represented a moral failing. The show had a massive platform, reaching millions of American homes every week during a period of intense social upheaval. The civil rights movement was transforming the country. The Vietnam War was tearing communities apart, and fundamental questions about justice and equality were being debated everywhere except, in Roberts's view, on television shows like Bonanza. Greene, along with producer David Dortort and the NBC executives, wanted to keep the show apolitical, focused on timeless themes of family and frontier justice rather than contemporary controversies. To Roberts, that wasn't professionalism or wisdom. It was cowardice, a deliberate choice to avoid using their influence for anything meaningful. As the seasons progressed, the relationship between Roberts and Greene grew increasingly cold. They rarely socialized off-set, their interactions limited to what scenes required, and occasional unavoidable production meetings. Roberts hated the way Greene's authority shaped the entire cast dynamic, how the younger actors seemed to follow his lead without question, accepting the show's limitations because their on-screen father found them acceptable. By 1965, Roberts had reached his breaking point. He was tired of fighting battles he couldn't win, tired of compromising his principles for a paycheck, and tired of spending his days in what felt like an increasingly suffocating environment. When he finally announced his departure from Bonanza, he walked away from one of the biggest paychecks in television, choosing integrity over financial security. Years later, when asked why he left, Roberts gave an answer that perfectly captured his feelings about Greene and everything the patriarch represented. He said simply, "I couldn't spend the rest of my life taking my hat off and saying, 'Yes, Pa.'" The quote became famous, repeated in articles about Roberts's career, and while it referred literally to the show's scripts, everyone who knew the backstory understood it was also about Roberts's refusal to defer to an authority he didn't respect. James Drury. The final feud on Roberts's list involved someone he never worked with directly, but whose values represented everything he opposed in the entertainment industry. James Drury, best known as the stoic star of The Virginian, crossed paths with Roberts during a televised panel discussion in the 1970s, years after Roberts had left Bonanza. The event was meant to explore the future of television westerns and the genre's responsibility to reflect or escape from contemporary social issues. Roberts had always been outspoken about the things that mattered to him. Throughout his career, he spoke openly against racism, criticized the Vietnam War, and condemned what he viewed as Hollywood's cowardice in avoiding controversial subjects. He brought that same passion to the panel, arguing forcefully that television had an obligation to engage with real-world problems. Drury, a proud conservative who believed entertainment should provide escape rather than confrontation, pushed back just as forcefully. According to accounts from journalists who covered the event, Drury argued that audiences tuned in to westerns specifically to get away from the news, to enjoy straightforward stories about good and evil without the complexity and controversy of modern politics. The debate grew heated quickly. Roberts, according to witnesses, became visibly frustrated with what he saw as Drury's willful blindness to injustice. He pointed out that during the civil rights movement, while real Americans were fighting and dying for equality, Western television shows continued presenting sanitized versions of frontier life that ignored the racism and violence that had actually defined that era. Drury responded that mixing politics with entertainment was a recipe for dividing audiences, and that actors had no special moral authority that obligated them to use their platforms for activism. By the time the panel ended, the two men were barely containing their anger. Multiple people who were present recalled that when the moderator suggested they shake hands for the cameras, both Drury and Roberts refused. They walked off in opposite directions, and according to a friend Roberts confided in later, he described Drury as never just an actor, but a mouthpiece for the status quo. What infuriated Roberts most wasn't that Drury held conservative political views. Roberts could respect honest disagreement about policy or philosophy. What he couldn't forgive was what he viewed as Drury's silence during critical moments when voices like his could have made a difference. To Roberts, choosing not to speak out against injustice wasn't neutrality, it was complicity. The revelations about Pernell Roberts' conflicts didn't shake Hollywood the way similar stories from other actors might have, primarily because Roberts had never hidden his difficult reputation. By the time he passed away on January 24, 2010, at his Malibu home at age 81 from pancreatic cancer, the industry had long since made peace with his legacy as a principled troublemaker who valued integrity over success. In the years following his death, biographers and television historians have continued to reassess his time on Bonanza and his broader impact on the industry. Many now view him as ahead of his time, an actor fighting for the kind of creative control and thematic depth that would become more common in later eras of prestige television. What remains undeniable is that Pernell Roberts meant every word of his criticism and genuinely despised what he saw as the moral and artistic compromises that Hollywood demanded. He carried those feelings with him throughout his life, never softening his opinions or seeking reconciliation with those he had fought against. What do you think about Pernell Roberts' uncompromising stance? Was he a visionary who refused to compromise his principles, or did his rigid idealism cost him the career he deserved? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from Hollywood's golden age.